On the 29th of February, Tarte Cosmetics sent 30 people on an all-expense-paid vacation to Bora Bora with a private jet flowing with champagne and caviar. The influencers ended up in luxurious bungalows over the water, and the creators produced mountains of content about every single aspect of the trip, while of course heavily promoting Tarte Cosmetics along the way. You see, Tarte has been sending influencers on different vacations on and off for years, with destinations ranging from Turks and Caicos in 2015 to Florida in 2022. But when the cosmetics brand sent 50 influencers to Dubai in 2023, audiences had enough. Then came hate and backlash. Content creators made video after video complaining about how tone-deaf the brand was, and how this display of extravagant wealth and luxury was incredibly insensitive, given the cost of living crisis. Sure, you could put this down to a bunch of content creators just cashing in on fake social media outrage, but studies are showing a universal backlash against large social media influencers, and the message is clear. Most people don't like them, believe them, or trust them. So how do we get here? Well, social media influencers took over the Hollywood celebrity-driven media landscape because once upon a time audiences found influencers more relatable and trustworthy. But things have changed, a lot. Data from a study conducted by the user-generated content agency called Entribe surveyed more than 1,000 American consumers aged 18 to 60 plus and showed that only around 12% of people trust influencer-promoted products. And recent studies expose another stark reality. Only 3% of consumers believe influencers have any significant impact on their purchasing decisions. This dramatic shift in audience trust is the origin of the term influencer fatigue. And many people say they are struggling more and more to relate to social media influencers with large audiences, especially as inflation rises and having financial stability becomes increasingly difficult. So what exactly is fueling this rise in influencer fatigue, and why might it spell the end for the once highly profitable social media influencer industry? Well, the first problem is oversaturation. The current social media landscape is full of lots of dull, repetitive sponsored content. Mountains of influencers jumped on the bandwagon to cash in on the ad share revenue models offered by most social media platforms, especially as partnerships with celebrities and influencers have now become an essential marketing strategy for most brands. But increasingly, social media has become a dumping ground for sponsored posts and advertising. Every day, social media users are subjected to a never-ending stream of influencers selling their products with the same aesthetic. If it isn't someone selling a yoga mat with a sunrise beach yoga pose, it's someone with a tastefully framed shot of avocado toast or a too-perfect gym selfie that's trying to sell you a new workout program or diet supplement. This type of stereotypical influencer content is turning people off, and 47% of consumers say they are fatigued by repetitive influencer content. This is also what gave rise to the de-influencing movement that blew up when content creators started fighting back against big influencers that were flooding social media sites with sponsored content, promoted posts, and products for sale, particularly on TikTok's shopping marketplace that is now integrated into its feed. De-influencers advocate against overconsumption and are growing in popularity. On TikTok, for example, 582 million of the 584 million total views for the de-influencing hashtag occurred in a 12-month period starting in 2023. Then there's the problem of influencers with bot engagement on platforms like Instagram and Twitter. Influencers face huge incentives to boost their numbers when it comes to followers, likes, and comments, and this has given rise to issues with bots, paid followers, and other shortcuts. In fact, studies have found many cases where influencers recruited by major brands have follower bases that are estimated to be up to 70% fake. This isn't just a massive headache for brands, it's also another huge reason behind the fatigue with influencers in general, because when followers aren't genuine, it undermines trust and authenticity, essentially weakening the foundation of influencer marketing. This then just fuels more consumer skepticism and disengagement from the influencer-driven landscape. The next problem that brings about consumer fatigue is that many influencers and big brands often pretend to care about important causes around the world just to get a moment in the spotlight. Whether it's slacktivism campaigns like the Kony 2012 movement or famous influencers like Gerard Khalil, who is facing allegations that he kept the hundreds of thousands of dollars given to his charity instead of donating it, or Chiara Ferragni, who is the popular Italian influencer that has been investigated for fraud after a $1 million fine over her misleading charity campaign. And there are also countless other examples of major influencers, brands, and organizations willing to exploit meaningful causes, steal from charities, all while selfishly trying to enhance their online profile in order to gain more trust from their subscribers. Also, there are too many instances of poor quality products promoted by large influencers, and on occasion outright fraud against their own followers. Influencer fraud destroys the underlying consumer trust and good faith from audiences that the influencer marketing industry is built upon. One good thing is that these scandals attract a huge amount of awareness and publicity once they get exposed. This helps to inform and protect potential future customers. However, all the negative attention and publicity just makes people more skeptical about influencers in general. Then there is the next problem of algorithms force-feeding specific types of content to its users. It's difficult for people to separate influencers they deliberately choose to follow from influencers that always seem to dominate their feed and are impossible to get away from because of the way social media sites have changed over the years. In the past, users would have to follow accounts to see influencer posts in their feeds, but now almost all the social media sites use an algorithm to show posts based on what their behavior suggests they might like, introducing them to influencers they haven't seen before or have chosen not to follow. Negative engagement still counts as engagement, so this model makes some of the biggest influencers difficult to avoid. This is also similar to YouTube going to war against ad blockers and trying to stop viewers from blocking intrusive adverts, which was covered in another video on this channel. Viewers not being able to block adverts on YouTube just means users have to sit through unwanted intrusive adverts, which are often from unpopular content creators trying to sell products that users often don't want or even need. One of the most popular examples of this
Here in my garage
was the Here in My Garage adverts by Lopez, which were frequently played as a pre-roll ad on YouTube. The video shows him standing in his garage in front of a Lamborghini sports car and urging viewers to visit his self-improvement website while promoting his self-improvement video program 67 Steps. The ad was reportedly the most viewed YouTube advert of 2015 and racked up hundreds of millions of views. However, it also led to a huge amount of frustration in users who found the ad almost impossible to avoid, and the video was eventually memed into oblivion.
Here in my garage.
But there has since been many copycats and content creators bombarding YouTube with similar ads, and all of this just means that it's getting harder and harder for viewers to avoid a lot of the content they don't want to consume, which just adds to the overall frustration and fatigue. Also, too many content creators promote the exact same sponsors and deals. They all seem to select sponsors from a limited pool of brands like ExpressVPN, Skillshare, Squarespace, HelloFresh, Raid Shadow Legends, and as if this wasn't enough, they seem to promote the exact same special offer. This means that they don't really offer any value to the audience who are just being served the same promotion over and over again. This level of saturation not only desensitizes viewers to the messaging and annoys audiences who feel bombarded with repetitive advertisements, it also undermines the fundamental purpose of sponsored content, which is to provide value to both creators and audiences alike. Finally, there is a greater demand for authentic engagement driven by millennials and Gen Z. Of all the reasons for the move away from influencers, the growing demand for authentic and meaningful engagement is the most significant. People are sick of all the generic cookie-cutter posts showing influencers posing with teeth whitening kits, boutique clothing, or even appetite-suppressing lollipops. Instead, social media users are looking for real, unstaged content to engage with. Of course, there will always be a place for big influencers, as some people will always desire inspiration and guidance from people that have the appearance of success. But recent research suggests that while these influencers are continuing to acquire a larger and larger audience share, they have lost almost all of their persuasive power, especially when it comes to young adults who make up the bulk of the target market, many of whom feel shut out of social mobility and financial success.